Hello my friends, how are you today? I'm Andreas from Motorfanatics and welcome to a new video. This is our first video back in the shop after our special from Assen. I noticed a few of you have enjoyed the video in Assen and I'm happy you did. But let's be honest, we could have done some things better and we will do some things better. But in this video it's back to Subaru. First thing on the agenda, I promised the viewer to explain how we got the rear race or the rear bearings from the hubs. And after we did that, we're gonna remove the tank. So there's nothing left to it but to do it. Let's do it. As promised to a viewer in our last video in the workshop, in the comment section, how to remove the inner race from the hub. First important step is know your enemy. Obviously that's the hub. Underneath on the hub sits the first rubber gasket. On that sits the inner race with a lip. We are trying to get our bearing puller underneath that lip. What prevents us from doing so is this sturdy rubber gasket. So if you have the chance, take a box cutter, take anything, pliers, and get rid of this little seal. So when this sits on here, that you have the opportunity to get the grip right onto this lip, this little tiny lip. Obviously that's not the whole bearing. We've got the outer race and the other sturdy parts where everything sits inside, the pin roller and stuff, and it's a little bit bigger and beefier on the rear. That's why it's a little bit more complicated or needs a little bit more force. So remember, this thing sits on here and we're gonna want to pull on this lip. Now to the tools for the job. So let's have a look. We start with the first method with the outer press. So we're gonna need this, we're gonna need this, and I'm gonna take these two just to show you, and we can use some of these and probably the spindle as well. While I attach everything, let me tell you how this works. We're gonna need that brace and need something for leverage. I put these on just to show you. I won't fix them, so you have an idea how that works. We've got a hub over here. This thing sits on and we try to sneak this underneath to pull. Just so you have an idea. We get rid of that to make it a little bit more clear. So we need some force to pull. So we put in the spindle, on which top you can just put, for example, a wrench or an impact gun. And now, since here's a hole, we need something to put leverage on. Just a beefy piece of metal. In an ideal world, the piece of metal is round and has the same wideness as the hub. But this works for the first few inches as well. Just put pressure, apply pressure, and the bearing will slowly move up. In an ideal world you would have a spacer like that, but without the hole. Because that does not fit together. Okay, that's the cheapest version of a bearing puller you can buy. The next version, the next nifty thing, is this piece of hardware, which will be disassembled, unbolt both sides, put it on and close it close to the bearing. That's why it's important to get rid of the rubber seal. As you can see, these prongs here are very dull. There's not much going on there. But these are sturdy, bigger and sharp, so we can pull in a little bit more. And the important part is that you really get underneath the lip of the inner race, but don't tighten it into the hub itself. And to get that thing off, again, the parts from the other kit, thread them in. I abused this thing a lot, so the threads are all a little bit tight, let's call it tight. Otherwise somebody tells me I don't handle tools very well, and they would be right. And again, here we go, tighten everything up, find a fitting piece. I'm gonna remove that just for the sake of information. Put it every way down. There are smaller versions too, so you get the equivalent length, and pull it up. This thing can, in that configuration, can handle a lot of force, and these bearing pullers aren't even that expensive. And now, to the masterclass with the shop press. This is at least my setup for the shop press. Actually, it's a 6-ton press in which I finagled a 20-ton jack, and it still holds up. And you first clamp on this bearing puller, tighten it so that you can get the puller underneath the lip. Remember what I told you a few seconds ago, like that. And then you simply press out the hub downwards, and the bearing puller pulls the race upwards, or keeps it steady while the hub moves downwards. Again, for this you need a fitting shim. In that case, the shim would be ideal, and you just press. From experience, let me tell you, get yourself some decent thick metal bars. These are 10 mil or a little bit thinner than half an inch. Just regular steel, and put the bearing puller like this, with the bolts completely supported by the steel. Not like this. Why? Because this way the beefier metal part can support the transition of force. This way only the bolt supports transition of force, which has led to, I don't know if you can see it, bendy bolts, and I've bent them back several times until I noticed how dense I was. So do it like that, have the beefy cast metal part supported, and have the bolts just clamp it together. Force from above and get it out. If you have none of these tools, really none, get yourself a pull hammer, or a weighted pull hammer. I've got no idea how it's called in English. You're gonna take this thing. Please excuse the dirty bench. You're gonna fasten it to the hub while the hub is still on your car and everything is assembled. Well, everything except brake caliper, brake disc, stuff like that. You know what I mean. And then you pull the living shit out of it with all the force you got and all the hate you got. That works too. Getting bearings back in, you might need another tool or shop press. Please write down in the comments if this has at least helped a little bit. If not, tell me also down in the comments, and I see what I can do next. Good luck, buddy. Well guys, since the diff cover bolts are still not here and still don't even have a date when they are supposed to arrive, we're gonna change plans. The rear trailing and control arms are done. They look nice, they only need to be assembled, but they're done. The rear sway bar is done, The mounts for everything, rubber mounts are all there, tucked away. I still need to do the hubs and the knuckles, but I don't, yeah. I lack the enthusiasm of doing all the sanding work at the moment. So we did something underneath the Subaru. First of all, we jacked it up a little bit more and used the extensions. And yeah, I could maybe redo that one a little bit, but it will do, it will do. And removed the secondary subframe mount from the differential housing. And this side went decently well. This side didn't. More rust, even more rust. And the worst thing is, our ripped off nut from the trailing arm mount is right here. So we need to find a way to get this arm somewhere else. Although this is what we just did. And the arm is not long enough to either go here or either go back here. So we need to find some kind of solution. But the main thing is, everything is prepared to remove the tank, and that's what's going to happen now. Step 1, support the tank. Step 2, loosen the belts with 2 screws. Step 3, wonder why nothing moves. There are rock chip covers, or rock covers, whatever you want to call them. And they are clipped onto the tank itself. One on the side and sometimes one there, but this one already ripped off, which you can't see. Here, this one already ripped off. And there's another one on the other side. On the left side of the fuel tank are 3 hoses. 2 with regular clamps and 1 with a special clamp, which you can open with 2 screwdrivers, but probably not in that position. Take a good look. 1 goes to the inside of the triple. 2, it's a special one, you can't mix it up. And 3 stays here on the outside and stays here on the outside. If you wonder why I'm doing this like a tutorial and explain where every hose goes, to remind myself when I put it back in.
A few moments later.
And the tank is out. Stop time, 70 minutes, but okay, let's be honest, the rear axle was out. The biggest bitch was the main fuel hose for the fuel cap, down from the fuel cap from fuel filler to the tank, because this thing got really hard over the years. He said hard. This one to the E-valve was a little bit sturdy too. The smaller ones were actually no problem. The ones going inside we had to cut open, unfortunately, and this is now your prime time view of underneath the car. The fuel tank itself, it is a little bit crusty, but it's pretty okay. We're gonna clean it, we're gonna paint it, we're gonna de-rust it on the sills, on the sides, and then it goes back in. And yeah, over here, the left side is less worse, trust me. I know it sounds stupid, but the left side is less worse than the right side. Everything directly under the rear, under the tank is pretty decent. Yeah, I think we're well done for this episode now. It's out, guys, we made it, and in just 70 minutes, I didn't expect it. I bought a few tools that really helped to get all the hoses loose. We had to cut a few, mainly those for the fuel lines, but they are cheap to replace. That doesn't bother me that much. The tank, all in all, is in decent condition. The underbody above the tank, all in all, is in a decent condition too. Now we can, for the next video, attack the underside, attack the fuel tank, and maybe start on reassembling the rest of the rear axle. So fingers crossed everything goes back together next week, or at least goes back in a better condition next week. If you liked this video, please press the like button. If you really liked it and don't want to miss any future videos, press the subscribe button, don't forget the bell, and anything I've left to say is we see each other next time. Bye bye.